everybody, and welcome here today to another Kerfuffle showcase. And I'm delighted to have, I'm looking very suave, if you don't mind me saying so. How are you today, Mario, from Simplify?
Yeah, I'm all good, thanks, Simon. All good this end. It's a Friday. It's sunshine is out, so yeah, all good here in Leicester.
Good stuff. And if,
good?
Yeah, and Leicester, where lots of good things happen, and it's a hotbed of excellence, isn't it? Because what we are here today is talking to one of the true giants within the industry here. And I'm really interested to see how we've known each other a number of years, and we'll get onto that and everything else here. But you're here to talk about the wider group now that is Simplify. Do you want to just give us a bit of a background about, you're welcome to, obviously, from your own point of view as well. Simplify itself, though, is a relatively new player within the industry and the market. Give us an overview of who they are, but also give us the background story as well.
Yeah, so Simplify essentially is the UK's sort of leading conveyancing and property services business, and you know, the company's made up of the companies within the group, which are probably well known within agency for the many years. So essentially, you've got My Home Move and Move With Us, who are very synonymous in estate agency and conveyancing. So wind the clock back to 2019, we had a merger between the two businesses to create Simplify, and then within that, you've then got all the different firms that sit under it. So in essence, you've got My Home Move, Move With Us. You then have 6 owned law firms. So we own 6 of our own law firms. Premier Property Lawyers, which is based in Leicester, Northampton, Manchester, and Newcastle. JS Law, which is based in Market Harborough. Yeah. We've got Advantage Property Lawyers in Leeds, DC Law in Cambridge and St Ives, GB Law up in the northeast in Newcastle, and Cook Taylor Woodhouse down in the Kent area. So that's sort of the owned law firms. We've obviously got the panel business as well, where we've got lots of different relationships with panel solicitors, up to sort of around about 300 solicitors around the country, and then we've also got, we're up to sort of probably around 2,000 employees now. Across the country, so all doing lots of different roles. So yeah, we've got lots of different offerings within the group, which is beyond just sort of the conveyancing side as well, which is obviously what we'll be talking about over the course of today.
Well, from our backgrounds, I mean, obviously knowing him previously, Stephen Hayter and everyone else there, used to sit with him on Peter Knight's little partnership group and everything else. It's fascinating listening to growth there. And I mean, you guys have become, the major player on conveyancing just by yourselves. So when Move With Us as well tied together, that really was that kind of tectonic place again, moving in the industry there. I'm guessing now one of the biggest things you've got, obviously, is that with that scale, there must come efficiencies, mustn't there? I mean, that's got to be the aim and the scalability of the business, is that you can react in a way that other companies can't. Would I be right in saying?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, we've got, we have, with the 6 law firms that we own, we have greater control in terms of the delivery of the service we can offer on conveyancing. And we can complement that with the panel solution as well, and obviously access to sort of 300 odd panel lawyers across the country. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. One of the things that you'll know on the My Home Move and Premier Property Lawyers side of the business, which we're very sort of famous and known for, was obviously on the technology side and eWay, and therefore we're looking at rolling out eWay to the rest of the owned businesses as well. So literally at the moment, we've got 4 of the 6 firms are now operating on the eWay platform. So whichever of those firms you use, the customer journey is the same, the transparency is there and things like that. So that's sort of one of the biggest things with regards to the merger and the efficiency that's come of it. It's also what it gives the end client as well, in terms of the conveyancing journey and how you get people obviously moved across and what have you. So yeah.
Cool. Well, we'll come back to eWay later, because that's a I mean, I'm going to have to declare my bias here, because I was a client of yours a while back and used eWay, and it was brilliant, just in terms of the simplicity of it and what it can enable you to do. So we will come back to that. But just give us an idea as well, Mario, just kick off first of all, just a bit about yourself and in terms of your actual role there at Simplify. What's your place in the whole?
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm a sort of national sales director. I'm responsible on the sort of new business side as well as on financial services as well. So I have a team of guys out there who go out there ultimately win business, and then I work alongside a chap called David Lloyd, who's also sort of known well within the industry, who basically heads up our account management side of the business. So the idea is, we go out, we sign it up, we get it established, and then we then pass it over to David to then, with his team, really start sort of working out how how we can best maximise the opportunities and make sure the service is what the clients are looking for. But yeah, I mean, obviously, I've been, as you said at the start, I've been here. We've known each other a long time, and I've been with My Home Move now, I think, as a from that era to in Simplify now, it's around about sort of 21 years, I think it is. So literally, conveyancing's everything, sort of all that I know, really. So it's a long time. We've seen a different sort of peaks and troughs in the market, whether it's changes in the process, changes to stamp duties, you name it, we've kind of seen it. So we kind of, I feel sort of I've got a bit of a steer in terms of what conveyancing is and what the challenges are. And I know obviously it's a hot topic at the moment in terms of why is it taking so long to get people sort of moved in, and lots of different reasons for that, and lots of different opinions, which I'm sure you've heard as well. But yeah, ultimately, everyone's still looking for the silver bullet.
So with 21 years there, am I right in thinking I don't want to get cornered by you at a party, do I? Because you're gonna hit me hard, aren't you?
Where's this going?
Are you able to relax? Is what I'm getting to there. Is it in terms of, because it's been a pretty stressful time, hasn't it? Let's be honest, for conveyancers that have had to carry the can over the last year. I know there's this friendly rivalry between agents, but in all honesty, it has burnt through, hasn't it? A number of the conveyancing staff that are out there who've had to deliver at
it's been difficult. Yeah, without that, it's been a challenging. Obviously COVID hitting. I mean, if you look at it, I mean, 2020 we were gearing up for a big year anyway, because you obviously had the election, you had some pent up demand from Brexit and the uncertainty around that. Election happened, everything was set that it was going to be a strong year, and then obviously COVID hit, and then that sort of did change the world and changed everything from how we go about our lives to the working routine as well. So that was a challenge, right? And then obviously you had the challenges of lockdown. You then come out of lockdown. The market showed a lot of activity. The government decided for them to turbocharge it even more so, and then you literally just went through from halfway through 2020 up until the back end of last year with those stamp duty changes. So it's been difficult, and conveyancers have had it very, very tough. Estate agents have had it tough as well. We're not going to sort of take that away either, but it's been difficult. And the demands and the expectation levels of customers now is kind of through the roof. I think if you think we live in an Amazon era where we can order something in the morning and by the afternoon it's there, and then when you then tell somebody who's maybe a first-time buyer it's going to take you 4 or 5 months to buy to move into your house and buy your house, they just don't get it, right? It's the same if you look at the car industry as well. You can order a car online now. That's sort of moved on, but the home side of things is obviously it's not as straightforward as that, and there's a capacity shortage without doubt. There's not enough conveyancers out there doing the job. It can be a bit of a thankless job, I think, if we're honest. You don't get as much of the glory as as you do on the estate agents when you sort of physically hand over those keys. You don't necessarily get a lot of that. But it's just been a difficult.
It can be thankless, can't it? Do you think? Well, I'll ask you on two levels there. Clearly, the public, because they don't go through this so often, they are obviously operating in the dark. And yes, you're quite right. You're working within the confines of the legal system anyway, aren't you? That's the first and most thing. So there's nobody I know that tries to do more in trying to get things working right and liaising constantly with government to try and do that. But as I said, you've got to deal with what's in front of you rather than what if there's some might be possible in the future. But let's take it back to people who should know better. Do you think you're getting a fairer crack of the whip from agents, or is this just always going to be a kind of them and us kind of scenario?
I think the conveyancing market is very fragmented, right? We as sort of the market leader will have what 6-7% market share, and it is so fragmented, and therefore there's different relationships, there's different businesses working in different ways. So I think that friction is there. I think we get some criticism around how motivated we are to get the deals done in the quickest period of time, which is a bit strange, really, because, as I said, many firms now operate a no move, no fee, right? So you're not going to earn anything unless it goes through. So in a similar boat to the estate agency side. But yeah, I mean, look, we share the frustration. But I think, the problem you've got is you just don't have any legislative changes which are going to make an impact. You've got different businesses that are doing different things, and different businesses trying to sell different bits of prop tech, which you have to go and buy and subscribe to. And therefore, you're not going to get everybody on that same sort of journey and that same sort of platform, and therefore it is open to agents trying to compare. And often I speak to agents and they'll say, I use this particular firm here, but I can't send them too much volume because they can't cope. But what I do send them, they do an amazing job, and therefore there's the challenge of capacity and scalability. So look, the partnerships that we work with agents, we fair to say, I think they cut us slack, we cut them slack, and I think it's a relationship business, right? And that's why you've got to trust the people you're working with. And I think with Simplify, with the guys that are involved in it, you mentioned Stephen Hayter. There's obviously, I mentioned David Lloyd. There's Dev Malley. There's Mark Montgomery, who does a lot in terms of steering committees around the whole home moving process. So we're very much a sort of a people business on that. So hopefully agents will sort of see that we try and do as best we can, and in maybe difficult scenarios.
Yeah, because that's really important, isn't it? Because as you grow, to retain those personal relationships and everything else is a challenge naturally as people grow. But you've mentioned just some of them; they're all great people and everything else. So there's been a lot of longevity there in terms of in those relationships that you've built up. So give us a clue then, Mario. What is Simplify's ambition? I mean, am I right in thinking you're by far the biggest conveyancer as a single conveyancer?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, Premier Properties always is obviously one of our brands is the is the largest conveyancer in England and Wales. But then obviously we've got the likes of GC Law, JS Law as well, and Advantage, all very sort of large sort of volume players. And then we've sort of added to the stable with slightly smaller firms like GB Law and Cook Taylor Woodhouse, very well known, credible firms in their areas. But yeah, in terms of the ambition, I mean, sort of twofold really. Without doubt, we want to kind of simplify the conveyancing process. Excuse the pun, but that's the best word I can use. So we want to try and simplify that process and get people moved in the quickest period and the smoothest journey possible. But at the same time with that, we want to try and give value to the agent and value add. So we want to try and make sure we're maximising the estate agent's opportunities to obviously refer conveyancing, and and we're doing that through people. Through the people that we employ, whether they're the conveyancers, the salespeople, the technology that we use and we deploy, whether that's eWay or some of the stuff we do with integrations with CRM systems. So we kind of, I guess, sort of I don't know. High touch, high tech is kind of, you'd probably sort of class it. We want to sort of continue to have a sort of hand holding in that process, but we know there's certain things you've got to do in terms of automation and efficiencies to try and get the get people moved and bring that sort of transparency into the journey. But as I said, it's we try and do all of this. We try and make the conveyancing process simpler by obviously the people that we employ, by the experience that they've got, the technology that we use, whether that's eWay or the different integrations that we've got with different providers, and the same on the conveyancing selling aspect, and how we sell conveyancing, the people, the tech that we use to get the best result for an estate agent, because we believe that it's the front end part of the job in terms of getting the instruction in, and then it's obviously then delivering that conveyancing at the back end as well. And
one of the challenges everyone has, I suppose, in the conveyancing realm as well, is you can sign up a an agency, but actually, unless you take all the staff with you as well, you know, the referrals aren't going to come through in the way that they need to and should do. And
Yeah.
so you have quite a hands-on experience with that, don't you? Built up over all these many years of ensuring that actually, you know, it's not just the business owner that's given the nod, but you're able to get everyone on the bus, I suppose, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, we've got two selling models. So if you look at the business as sort of two parts to it, the conveyancing selling aspect, you know, how do we get business, how do we work with those leads that come in? So there's a couple of options there. And then how do we then follow through with the conveyancing delivery? So in terms of the selling models, we have what we call our self-quote model, where we empower the agent to quote themselves and instruct themselves so that they can manage that whole process themselves, and obviously look at the different MI reports to show how they're doing, and we support with training and all of that, how to best convert. But then we have what we call our referral model, and that's probably the model which has the biggest success, because what you tend to do in there is the estate agent is delegating the responsibility of conveyancing and conversion to ourselves and our sales team, because that's what we're doing, you know, sort of day in, day out. And then with our integrations with different CRM providers, we can also sweep up the missed opportunities. So, you know, you could have, you know, in the self-quote model, you could have a branch that's got maybe 2 individuals who are out there sort of selling, and one's really good at selling additional services like FS and conveyancing, and you might have somebody else who isn't as good. So then how do you kind of manage that? You know, you've got to be really sort of, you know, focused on it and looking at MI, but business owners, branch managers are very, very busy, right? So how much are they going to focus on that? With the referral model, with the way we've integrated with CRM systems as well, we can sweep up those missed opportunities. So, you know, if John Smith has forgotten to quote and instruct a case, we sweep up on that, right? So we can catch that. So we can say, we can mitigate the weaker performers in your branch, because it's good, as much training as you're going to do, you're going to have always people who are better at selling, you know, additional services than others, and we try and do that, and that's unique in the in conveyancing, that we've got the self-quote model, which is, you know, this is for agents to manage themselves, and then obviously their referral model as well. So they choose which they prefer off the back of that, and then that just follows through with how they want the conveyancing done at the other side of that. So do they want to employ one of our 6 owned law firms to it, or do they want to use one of our panel firms? So if they want to prefer a local or a regional lawyer, or do they want both? So in some cases they want to go with us because it's a first-time buyer and they work away from home, and eWay would work really well for them, to those who haven't moved in 30 odd years and they just would prefer somebody local. So you can have the best of both worlds. So yeah, that's kind of
so flexibility and a turnkey solution. I mean, really, you've got a lot of different options. This isn't a one-size-fits-all where you just, you know, you're forcing people down a particular route. You can get them on board, get them seeing what the service is like, and then choosing whether it's panel at one end or, you know, going with your whole selection internally yourselves. So I think that's really nice to be understand that as well. And just talk us through then as well. You've mentioned eWay a few times now. As I said, I used it, kind of been too long after it came out, actually, and I was pretty much blown away by, for somebody like me, and I must be fairly representative how crap the British public is, unless I am being nudged, blackmailed, cajoled, you know, to get this stuff, because it's so often it's not you, is it? It's them that hasn't got the information back, and they're holding up the process. So it was just such a wonderful tool, a simple tool to give me the right nods, the right prods. How is it? Just summarize it back to us again, basically. This mobile tool, anyway, in the first instance, isn't it? But how has it developed on, and how is it helping people in your network?
I think, you know, we launched eWay sort of back end of 2009, so, you know, it's a decade old, and we've obviously different generations. We're like sort of 3rd or 4th generation of eWay now. So, and every time you pick up the feedback, right? What sellers and buyers are saying, it'd be nice if it did this, and it'd be nice if it did that. So you continuously are looking to improve the platform to make it, you know, be relevant and be where it needs to be. So, and then if you look at that period, you're talking, you know, you're one of 500,000 people who've used eWay.
Wow.
You know, so you're talking, you know, big numbers, right? So it's stood the test of time. I think there's a few lookalikes out there, which, you know, are trying to purport to do things, but they're still not as joined up and as slick as eWay. And, you know, we have, as a reality is, you know, we've got over a decade, 10 years worth of head start on firms trying to develop it. So we're further along in that journey. But and we came out with the e-way because at the time, the only thing you had was case tracking, right? Which is that sort of static milestone reports to say the mortgage offer's come in or the searches have been ordered. And we wanted to do something a bit more interactive and move more on the lines of where online banking was going and that interactiveness and that empowering the client to do their own thing. So that's what that was sort of the principle behind it, and therefore bringing in transparency. So kind of not having to think, are we nearly there yet? What's my solicitor done today? Is just give them the transparency, show them what telephone calls have happened on the case today, what letters have come in, giving them the ability to carry their the conveyancing file on their smartphone, right? So they download the app and therefore, if they're working away from home, doesn't matter because they've got the conveyancing folder on their phone. So it's things like that which we've tried to do. And on the transparency pieces, was I sort of described as a triangle. So you've got information flowing between the sort of three parts of the process. You've got the conveyancer, the estate agent, the client. Yeah. So the e-way has enabled those three in the triangle to be able to see what the other has done, and therefore it just means people are a lot more up to date with what's happening. It's not kind of what's the latest that and that's one of the things we say to agents is that transparency we give. There shouldn't be instances where they're saying what's the latest on my case. But look, it's not it's still there's still more work to be done. But the reality is we know with agents who've had it they do get very reliant on the transparency and seeing what clients are doing and vice versa.
The problem is you can be a bit like a nuclear submarine, can't it, where you need the two keys done at the same time. In a traditional model where somebody's got to find the right time when they can speak to their solicitor or to their agent and everything else. And the real world is so, chaotic these days, isn't it? And I don't even have to ask you. I'm absolutely sure that, the amount and the weirdness of and regularity of people logging into this e-way system out of hours would be quite surprising to a lot of people, wouldn't it?
Yeah, no, it is. When we pulled some stats, I mean, funnily enough, it's there is a spike in traffic on Sunday evening, right? So that probably tells us maybe there's not a great deal on TV at that time.
Not since Heartbeat's gone.
Yeah, since Heartbeat and the bill was gone, it's gone downhill. But anyway, but we see a sort of a spike in people logging in. It's probably because people are getting themselves set to make some phone calls on Monday to see what the latest has happened. But we can see the sort of the different trends. But yeah, there's people that are completing forms at midnight, right? And you see that we have clients that logging in on Christmas Day and completing their instruction forms on Christmas Day. It's really interesting to see, and you wouldn't get that without e-way. You just wouldn't have that, right? You'd just be you don't give that accessibility to your file if you were using a traditional solicitor, and that's the beauty of it.
I think one of the problems where some traditional solicitors got themselves into a bit of a mess was they perceived tools like like e-way and online tools, self-service tools, as somehow giving up on the customer service ethos. And they've really missed the point there, haven't they? That actually it can only embellish and bolden it to help people out. There is a growing propensity of people, now that everybody is used to the likes of online banking, that your expectation levels come from not just what other people are doing within our own industry, but what people are used to doing outside. And everyone expects to be able to do stuff themselves, don't they?
Yeah, no. Look, I mean, as I said right at the start, we live in an Amazon era where we can order stuff. We want it's the immediacy. We want to be able to get it now, and therefore you've got to try and bring that into conveyancing, just like the car industry has brought it in, just like the banking industry has brought it in. You have to try and give that. Yes, transaction times haven't got any better over the last decade, but let's be real here. There are challenges in conveyancing today that didn't exist 10 years ago, right? And therefore you have to factor that in. And that's some of the things that people sometimes gloss over is the job isn't as straightforward as it was 10, 15, 20 years ago. There's more red tape, and the reasons for that are varied, and how valid they are up for debate, but we are where we are. But I think from our perspective, we just need to try and mirror what the expectation level is, and we get feedback around e-way where they will they'll not necessarily review the job we've done on the conveyancing side, but they'll review our online system, the portal. They'll invite the interactivity on it. They'll review that side of things. Oh, it'd be nice if it did that, but that's because they're measuring us against a First Direct or an Amazon, and therefore they don't know that in conveyancing, anything like eWay is very, very unique, right? So they're just measuring us against those other big players in different industries, as opposed to measuring us against, a high street solicitor they used 5 years ago, and what kind of service they gave them in terms of, did they give them any technology, did they give them any online transparency? Probably the answer is no. But they forget about that, right? So we get judged against other businesses that are not necessarily within ours.
And do you feel broadly optimistic, or are you a glass half empty sort of guy in terms of you talking about these challenges that you quite rightly just had put in front of you? For where do you see hope, I suppose? Is this something that we should be thinking, is it going to be hitting us in the next 18 months, or are we still waiting to drive this improvements through it, in a 3 to 5 year period?
Well, look, there is a groundswell of opinion that the process needs to change, and as I said, Mark Montgomery's, who's our sort of chief strategy officer, he's regularly sort of speaking in the very relevant forums and with Whitehall and things like that around what would make a difference. And there's been some false dawns, right? There's been some false dawns about, if you did this, it'll speed the process up and things like that. But I'm optimistic that I think we'll soon be very soon be in a position where we can sign documents electronically, right? The technology's already there. We've just got a little bit more refinement to do to make sure that contracts are getting signed by the actual individual. We know obviously it's common in the letting side of the business, so that's coming soon. That naturally will help. And I think the government will probably look at certain aspects of the process to see what they can try and do to sort of standardise it without going bold and coming up with another type home information pack type product. So it's going to be it's going to be a sort of natural evolution of it. Is it going to speed it up? I think it will speed some aspects of it up. But remember, it has to be done by, there has to be some legislative change, because if you're dependent on solicitors or estate agents, whatever it is, to buy products, you're not going to get that uniformity of everybody doing it and therefore seeing the benefit. Because remember, you're going to be, for as good as eWay may be and what have you, you're only as fast as the slowest link in the chain. And if they are working the very sort of traditional way and they, whatever process they've got in place is lagging behind, the whole chain will be slow, right? It's just the way it is, because you're not going to have many people who have the appetite to break chains.
Understood there. And you really need to see eWay, don't you, to understand what benefit this can give people. And I'm sure there is, instruction winning potential in there as well. How should an agent, can they drop you a line directly and get a demonstration of eWay?
Yeah, they can obviously get in touch with us direct. Obviously, we've got our Kerfuffle page as well, where they can get in touch, and we can send out the you see the little drop there. But yeah, you can have we can come out and sort of show you it and demonstrate how it works, and then how you can then have it within your business and what it then is going to give you from a sales progression perspective as well. So we can get that set up.
And just in terms of that feedback that you actually get from agents themselves, I'm guessing the staff become quite big fans of this eWay after a period of time as well, don't they? Because it helps their whole community. You mentioned before that classic what's happening, and people always said, well, we call our clients every day, but there's a world of difference between phoning your clients, knowing that they've already seen something, that they're fully aware, and having a more constructive conversation with them than just giving them an update on stuff, and then having to repeat stuff that they could already know.
And that's what I sort of said about that sort of the triangle that I explained, because when an agent's going to obviously progress a file, they can go into their version of eWay. They can see what the latest is coming to us, what the latest we've sent to a client, whether the clients have even opened the document, whether the clients have actioned it, whether they've sent anything back. They can see all of that. So when they're calling more informed, and that's the and what that does is also it saves a phone call, right? So that means they don't need to then call us to get that update. And I would say eWay and our sort of sales progression tool within Introducer eWay, for me, it takes care of about sort of 60 to 70% of the sales progression process, because you want to know, has the client filled out the forms, and sorted their ID, have they paid for the searches, have the contract's gone out, the search has been ordered, they come back in as a mortgage offering. That is the bulk of the process. Where you need to pick up the telephone is when it gets to the inquiry stage, because we know one of the big challenges and issues is sort of inquiry tennis that you end up getting involved in with solicitors raising inquiries, answering them, re-raising them, and so on and so forth. That's when you kind of, an agent pick up the phone and get the information. But everything else, if you're calling a client to say to them, I've noticed your mortgage offer's just come in with a conveyancer as well, so your mortgage report's going to be coming out to you, or your mortgage report has come to you, you've not opened it yet. It's just joining it all up. And again, it goes back to that sort of triangle that I describe of the flow of information.
And the best agents, or even actually just half competent agents, shouldn't have anything to fear, because, well, the one thing that will highlight actually is, whereas vendors, or they might have been a bit suspicious that it was the agent holding up the elements here, they can see quite clearly in black and white that actually they're doing their part of the process, and where the blame lies, isn't it?
Yeah, and there's nowhere to hide. I mean, when we added what we call the case activity page within the client EWA system, and also the agent version, some of our conveyancers was a little bit sort of concerned about it, because it was almost like, you can't hide, right? If you're saying you're going to make a phone call, you've got to make the phone call, because it's going to be recorded on the activity tracker. So there's what it's like. Some people say, yeah, I'm going to give them a call, and then they don't get around to calling him, but they'll say, oh yeah, we called him, but we left a message. And then you can, oh, okay, no problem. With EWA, that level of transparency you've got with the activity tracker, you've got to have made the call. And if you don't make the call, you've not made the call, and therefore you deal with the consequences of it. So there is that accountability that comes with the transparency.
What you say you're going to do, though, isn't it? That's the old maxim of business, isn't it? So that's good. Now, okay, that's really good. So, and I encourage everybody to have a look at EWA as well, to see the caliber of what you guys have to offer. But it's not all you offer, is it? Because especially by bringing in other parts of these businesses, Move With Us in particular had other business services in there. Do you want to just give us what complementary kind of things the whole group can help out with?
Yeah, well, obviously, we have a conveyancing panel system as well. So we, as I said, we have that best of both worlds. So if you don't want to use EWA because the client prefers to have a more sort of face-to-face service, we can accommodate that. But conveyancing aside, and Simplify is more than just conveyancing. We also have obviously the property side of the business. So with our asset management, so with Move With Us, we work with all the national builders, as well as some of the small to medium-sized ones as well. And in addition to that, we work with probate companies and also with lenders on the repossession front. And what they do is they come to us to help dispose of properties. Most often part exchanges, assisted moves in the new build arena. What we can do is that they come to us, and we can then place the property to our preferred agents. They are based upon obviously the market leaders, so it's not it's all very, very transparent in terms of who gets what. We use statistics to show who the market leader is, the quickest time to sell, the best prices achieved, etc. And then last year we added Moving Made Easy, which is another player in that sector as well. So we're talking around just around about 12,000 instructions per year that we would normally see through a combination of assisted move, Part X's, probates, and repossession. And that was one of the big. That was ultimately what was sort of the foundations of Move With Us, and that's obviously grown and grown and grown. And a lot of our partners get the benefit of that. So it isn't just a conveyancing. Yes, if you work with us conveyancing, there's other options that you get in terms of the property side. And other things that we're looking to do. I mean, whilst we're on the phones to clients, is what can we help an agent? What can we do for an additional value add? And just recently we've started working with agents when we're on the phones talking to buyers, essentially to convert them for conveyancing, is we check in to see if they've booked their mortgage appointment, right? And then if they haven't booked their mortgage appointment, we will try and assist to book that in with the agent's chosen FS providers. We don't do mortgages. All we do is just help book an appointment. And again, it's just that additional piece that we just sweep up the missed opportunities, where we go back to that analogy I used at the start, where you mitigate the weaker performers. We can do that as well. And we're adding some real value there to estate agents, because FS is always a difficult one to crack as well. And that's something that we're looking to do. So it's, as I said, not just about conveyancing, it's about, can we offer you listings in a difficult market? Can we help with your FS and booking appointments and getting business out of that as well? So it's a sort of a combination of all of that.
Yeah, because a lot of the time, you mentioned it earlier, agents so often have so many different areas that on the face of it all offer different revenue streams, utilities, mortgages, yeah, you mentioned, conveyancing it, but it can become a bit like whack-a-mole as to which one you concentrate on. So to have that sweep up effect that you're talking about there, while you have got them on the phone and you've got their attention, can only be seen as a benefit there, just to make sure that you're getting every opportunity, every crack of the whip, and almost moving it into, dare I say, almost into a concierge service there, where look, a lot of these people, actually, you shouldn't be embarrassed about it, because they will see it as a benefit. Oh, we didn't know, we haven't got that side of things sorted out. Yes, we'd be delighted to talk further. It will inevitably increase business on that basis, won't it? However much,
Yeah,
it can only go one way.
yeah, no, exactly that. And look, you've got very good. Sometimes you've got very good estate agents who are very good at estate agency, but just for whatever reason, it just the additional services just doesn't. They're not as strong as it. Maybe they're too busy. Maybe they're focused on the core element of what their job is. We can help with some of that, right? So we can help with the conveyancing, so we can maximise those opportunities, because we always talk to an agent. You've got your sort of core opportunities of selling conveyancing, and then you've got your non-core opportunities. So your cores will be your listings and your sales agreed. Your non-cores are your valuations. That may not lead to anything. Your viewings, that they might go and buy through somebody else, but they're all opportunities to turn into conveyancing. So we can help you maximise that, and that's a big thing that we push is Simplify is about maximising your conveyancing selling opportunities as well as the delivery side, and then in addition to that, we can then throw in property instructions and look to help businesses on the FS side as well with helping with appointments.
And that's fantastic. And as you said before, I mean, I was very aware of the asset management side of things, and to have the ability to, obviously at this time where instructions are at such a premium, obviously, to be able to get hold of. I remember actually, I think it was one of the it was Hall and Benson. Mark Benson, a good friend of mine way back when, and I remember him talking about that service, and I remember him saying they couldn't have made it through the 2008 2009 period if it hadn't been for actually the business that had been generated and supplied off the back of that. They'd have had to have contracted by their staff members there. So luckily we're not in anything like that marketplace, but we are short of listings, of course, so anything there is going to be welcome, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly that. And look, and the thing is, we've been obviously with Move with us in that space for a long time, and you're constantly learning on how to make that proposition as good as it can be, and obviously how do we look to grow it. And as the acquisition of Moving Made Easy last year has helped to do that with getting more instructions. But sometimes it's potluck. Sometimes you don't know if 1 year you have a good year from us in terms of listings and instructions. Other years might be it just purely depends on what comes up in the market. But it's definitely something good to have, because I always sometimes when you speak to estate agents, they talk about conveyancing. Well, I give it to my local solicitor because he gives me a bit of probate.
Yeah, I've heard that a million times. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly right. So it's kind of the alternative to that, where it's not just probate, you can get Part X, assisted moves, blah blah blah. So it just gives us another string to the bow,
rather than just actually quizzing them on how many actually they have received from those.
Yeah. There's lots of sweeping statements of how many they actually get, but I think when they drill down, it's not as much. But yeah, so there's an alternative to that which they can tangibly see.
And talking about alternatives, let me ask you a tough question. Clearly, there are other competitors in this field and everything else. But you don't have to name names. But what do you feel sets yourself? I mean, scale clearly is that ability to, I know that challenge to go out there and get as much conveyancing resources you got has been the big challenge for your business, so you can deliver on these. On all your clients and everything else. What do you see as yourself, though, really there, if you were to look at this as neutral as you could do, as the difference between yourselves?
Well, I always look to see, to competitors and see what are they offering that is unique, all right, and then what are we doing that with that unique? I think with us, we've essentially got our people, and I sort of mentioned whether it's the people in the sales room, the conveyancers. I mean, we've got conveyancers with relationships with our estate agents that go over sort of 10 15 years. They've been working with the same estate agent. That value there is huge. Technology, clearly eWay is unique. Going on about sort of things about what's your USPs. Definitely eWay and our tech is very much a part of that. So we sort of look at our people, our technology, and ultimately the customer service we pull out the other end. On average, we're sort of 4.5 out of 5 stars on Trust Pilot. So we continue to work hard on that to make sure the service that the clients get is good. But we've got 2 clients, right? We've got the estate agent who's a client, and obviously the end. So you have to sort of have an eye on both of those. And as I said, I think when it comes to the client, we're coming up to sort of 30,000 reviews on Trustpilot, right? With the most sort of reviewed conveyancer on Trustpilot. So these are big numbers, and you're holding good credible scores. But we're constantly looking to develop our people, develop the technology that we've got, and the service offering that we offer out there. So that's an ongoing process. So we don't stand still. We, as I sort of said, we were sort of third generation of eWay, because constantly there's other things that come into the market. There's competitors who will also come out with things, and we have to make sure we adapt and we move forward. But the other things that we do, which it's more behind the scenes really, but it's worth letting people know, is we do a lot of work around capacity planning, right? So we forecast what our volumes are going to be for from now up until sort of 2024. So we forecast ahead. Now a lot of it is guesswork, and we're working on different metrics to try and put together a best case scenario and a worst case scenario. But the idea behind that is that when we feel we're full up, then we full up, right? So we can't take any more work into group. Then we look to use our panel more. So we flex that work as well to give give agents confidence that we're not just filling ourselves up because we're greedy, and the service that we're going to put out there at the back end isn't going to deliver. We know that that's sort of short-term gain really. So you have to think ahead, and that's what our capacity planning enables us to do. And I think how we work with agents to maximize their opportunities with our sort of unique integrations with the different CRM systems, again, it's very it's unrivaled in the market, right? There is no other conveyancer that's. I was going to say,
have you got them with most of the main guys? Have you?
Yeah, and as I said, it just means we can provide the estate agent with that additional service of selling conveyancing, sweeping up the missed opportunities, now on FS for those firms that we're working with in that space. And these are all value-added things that they won't get from other providers out there. Other providers tend to be just conveyancers, or there might be a panel. Some of them, obviously do a good job in the different sort of sectors that they work in. Obviously, naturally, we think we are the best, and actually, our position as market leaders would suggest that with the number of transactions we do. So that you've got the buy-in from the estate agency, well, because of how much work you're entrusted to do for them, but also with what we do in terms of the output to clients and how much our reviews from like Trustpilot and things like that, which help us. So we spend a lot of time to try and make sure we're pushing the boundaries on the conveyancing delivery we do, but also how we sell conveyancing. How can we best get the return for the agent? So when they trust us to deliver their conveyancing numbers, we can do it. I mean, and other things that we don't shout about too much, because it's something we work on ourselves, is the things we do around some of our different charities that we support. So we support a couple of charities. We support Honeypot, which is a charity for young carers. So we support that. And then we've got Stahalia, which is a charity in India as well, that we support there as well as from time to time, different things that we may do with things like the industry charities that as you know, and you support very well as well.
Seen you guys around a lot of the
So we try and do that, and as a responsibility, as you said, we're a large organisation, and with that comes a responsibility of doing your bit for the communities and the different charities, and it's not just all about maximizing profits and earning estate agents money, or earning ourselves money, or getting people moved into their home. It's what you do over and above that, which as I said, we don't shout a lot about it because it's just something we get on with, but it's definitely something.
I definitely know you. I mean, I can certainly testify to that. I can't think that many of the events that I go to, and I go to a few of them, that you guys aren't there and backing, and as you said, you don't need to shout from the hilltops about it for the good work you do there. And I think it's really important, because one of the saddest things you see is, as companies do grow, when they lose that, they really become a supplier too, rather than a partner of the agents as well. So to keep that kind of, keep that grounded is wonderful to see. Yeah,
well, we as I said, it goes back to the people within the business. We've all been here a long time, right? And I think people trust us. They know we do as good a job as we can, and those relationships have a huge value. Now, the fact that we've got a solid product that goes with it is just it's a win-win. But we're the partners that we work with, and even firms who don't necessarily work with us, often sort of speak highly of us, and that's because we just very with people who are trying to help people out in scenarios where even if there's nothing in it for us, right? So we'll do what we can.
I think my only the moment where I broke a little bit with you guys and the way you were trying to do it was, I seem to remember walking into the My Home Move offices at one stage and you having a series of treadmill machines kind of backing onto each other, and we're doing some sponsored running, which included you actually having business meetings whilst everyone was walking together. That was the moment I said, I'm out.
That was that's when we moved into the new office. We had the running machines or walking machines, as it were, with a notepad on there. That was it was they lasted a bit of time. I can't say I was the
Did somebody take a screwdriver to them?
I wasn't the most frequent of users, but they when we first installed them, it was everybody was happy to have a go on it, and then the novelty soon wore off. So not
enough deodorant in the office to
no, that's the thing. No one wants a sweaty
colleague. No, exactly. Well, look, thank you so much for taking me through that. I mean, as I said, drop a line, as he quite rightly pointed out there. Go to kerfuffle.com, search for Simplify on there, bring up their wonderful landing page. Goes into a lot of detail there that you can find out about even before you put your head above kind of the parapet. I know a lot of you like to do your kind of R&D for a while before talking to people, but when you are happy there, of course, make sure you look at the reviews as well. They've always named reviews on our website with someone saying good or bad, and you've got a lot of really good ones on there from some excellent agents already. And then there's for those actual Kerfuffle members, as long as you're registered with us, you've got the ability to book in an appointment with these guys, talk to them about how you can help maximize your conveyancing income by up to 40%, gain more listings through their property network, and being with a chance is a crucial bit to win a DJI Mini 2 drone as well, and they are pretty spectacular. I quite like
aerial photos. It's the future, I'm told, is aerial photos of your house. But
I don't think I'm allowed to enter these competitions. But
no, unfortunately, no. It's probably because you've already got one of these machines.
I actually have. It's over there. I think I crashed it. And then actually, as well, even better than that, for all new introduced to Simplify, you get an exclusive Kerfuffle client discount of up to £200 for your first instruction. It includes any related transaction. So thank you guys for looking after us and our members there. That's much appreciated. Go on, give these guys a look and drop them a line, and I'm sure you can have a really good conversation to learn about what they're doing. Mario, for today, I look forward to our next one. Let's talk to a few of your clients, I think, on some of the panel shows going forwards, but thanks for everything so far.
Yeah, no, thanks, Simon. Thanks for having me, and yes, look forward to speaking to people soon.
See you soon. Cheers. Bye.
Later. Bye-bye.